Ya, selamat pagi kawan-kawan. Hari ini saya berada di Aunty Peg untuk menikmati kopi dari Panama. Ya, sambil menunggu, saya akan memperlihatkan suasana di Aunty Peg. Ramainya orang. Nah, ini bagus-bagus banget. Yes, I'm recording.
That's so cool.
Oke, kawan-kawan, nanti kita lanjutkan lagi pada saat kopinya mulai.
We have some very exciting copies lined up. We are showcasing our next showcase, which will be coming through. So on Wednesday, we'll be changing over to a Panama showcase, and we'll have 3 different copies from Panama, one of which is the Panama occasion. These 3 will be from the same farm, so it's the Hartmann El Finca Hartmann is the name of the farm. And we'll be getting to taste some incredible coffees here this morning. But first things first, hands up if this is your first time copying. Cool. Awesome. Well, sorry, I could see just then you were like, what are you saying? What are you talking about? So what we'll be doing this morning, just to give you guys a little bit of a background, coffee cupping is what we do to taste the coffees we have coming through the shop. So it's initially performed overseas at origin, and they cup the coffee, they taste the coffee to determine the price that will be set for that coffee and how it will be sold overseas. So going all the way back to the start, just to rewind, coffee is a fruit, and coffee is grown on coffee trees, and as the fruit grows, they pick the cherries off of the tree when they're as ripe as possible, and then they'll go through and they'll process them in a number of different ways. So inside each coffee cherry, there are 2 seeds, and those seeds are the coffee beans that we use. So those seeds, they sit against each other, just like that. We've got 2 inside there, and then we've got the flesh and the skin of the cherry around the outside as well. So when we're tasting coffee, what we're tasting is the product of that fruit, all of the sweetness, all of the sugars, all of the flavour that fruit has produced. And that can also be affected by how the coffee's been processed, which we'll get into in a moment, and also how the coffee's been roasted as well. So roasting, which we do down the back here in the shop, and as many other places in Melbourne do as well, roasting is essentially just a cooking process. So when we roast the coffee, we are adding heat to the coffee, and it's sitting inside a cast iron drum, which is rotating those coffee beans around. So as they cook, we've got the caramelization of those sugars from the coffee fruit occurring, and there's also a number of different complex chemical reactions between the sugars and the acids, which are creating new flavor aroma compounds in the cup. So with the 3 coffees that we've got here today, they are from 2 different countries. So we've got 3 which are from Panama and 3 which are from El Salvador. With the 3 from El Salvador, they are all the same variety. So again, to go back to that, varieties of coffee. If you think like wine, you've got 2 different species of grape, the red grape and the white grape. And then within each of those species, there are different types of varieties as well. So within red grapes, you've got Merlot, Cab Sav, and Shiraz, and they all have very distinct flavors. It's the same thing with coffee as well. So you guys have probably heard of Arabica and Robusta coffee before. So those are 2 types of coffee. So the majority of specialty coffee that's produced is Arabica, because it doesn't have as much strength or as much of a harsh taste coming through. It's got more preferred taste profiles. And within Arabica, there are a number of different varieties. So these 3 coffees, they're all from the origin, El Salvador, and they're all the variety Red Bourbon. But what we also have here to showcase is 3 different processing styles. We have a natural process, a glazed process, and a washed process. So hands up if you've heard of natural process coffee before. Cool. So natural process is the initial processing method which was used with coffee. They pick the cherries off the tree and they just leave them to dry with the skin and the flesh still on the outside. So what you get is an infusion of the flavors. All of those sugars and all that sweetness of the coffee gets infused into the coffee beans inside, and it gives us a really aromatic, really fruit-driven coffee flavor. So what you guys will notice when we grind these coffees up, from the natural processed coffees, you'll be able to smell them a lot more than the glazed and the washed. It will be very aromatic, very fruit-driven, like stewed fruits, and yeah, they smell amazing, and they taste amazing as well. So the next processing method is the washed. So washed is done to remove the flesh off of the coffee cherry, so we can get at the seeds inside. So they pick the cherries and they skin them, they pulp them. So they run them through a mill, which kind of squeezes the coffee beans and the flesh out from inside of that skin. And then they leave them to ferment for about 48 hours. That softens up that flesh on the coffee cherry, and then they wash it with fresh water, and it washes off all of that flesh so that you can have just the coffee bean left up. So from a washed coffee, they don't smell as good when you smell the coffee grains, but the flavors that you get from that coffee, there's a lot more acidity and it adds more complexity to the cup as well. So you get a nice balance and a nice array of flavors on your palate. So in between, we've got the glazed, which is similar to a honey process, which you guys might have heard of. That's what we have for our current showcase at the moment. But honey process is in between the two. So they pick the cherries, they pulp them, they take the skin off, and then they leave them to dry just with the flesh still on the outside. So that flesh, it starts to turn really sticky as it ferments, and from that stickiness, that's where it's called the honey process. So with the glazed here, on the other hand, what the farmers do here at Finca Siberia is they keep moving the coffee, and so it doesn't have that chance to kind of get really stuck to each other, and as it dries out more evenly, it starts to turn real glazed, kind of like roasted nuts kind of thing, where you roast them in honey and then they get all sticky on the outside. So you have to keep moving them, otherwise they'll just turn into like a big mass. But when they keep moving them, they turn glazed on the outside. So it's similar to the honey process, but you get more of those sort of dried fruit flavors coming through as well. So it's a little bit more leaning towards a natural processed coffee. So this is actually an experimental processing method that they're doing in El Salvador. So it'll be nice to taste those three. So on the other side of the table, we will also have our 3 new showcases. So we have 3 coffees from Panama, and these are the coffees that will be coming up next Wednesday in the bar here. So we have Hartmann Estate, so these are all from the same farm as well, Hartmann Estate. We've got our and they're all natural processed as well. So we have our Katura Katuai, that is the varietal of the coffee, Marikagipi, which is another varietal, and then the Geisha, which is the amazing varietal. So all 3 of these coffees are really incredible coffees. In Panama in particular, it's very well known for its microclimates, which produce these incredible tasting coffees. So microclimates in Panama, you guys have probably heard of the Panama Canal. So Panama, as you know, it's that kind of real spindly thin bit that connects North America and South America. And so with that, they've essentially got a big mountain range which runs down the middle. It's the spine of Panama, it's called. And on each side, one side they've got the Caribbean, and the other side they have the Pacific Ocean. So within that region there, they've got all of these different factors which are affecting the climate. So microclimates are essentially when you get one small section of climate which is different to the other regions or to the general climate of that area. So you can get urban microclimates. In cities, they can actually heat up a lot more because we've got a lot of bricks and a lot of buildings, and they absorb that sunlight and that heat, and they then reflect that out, so it increases the temperature of the air. So in a city, you can have a climate that would be very different to the areas around the city because of all of those buildings that are in the city. So it's not really the same thing, but it's quite similar in Panama, where they've got the mountain range. The mountain range is being affected by sunlight, which is streaming down onto the mountains. And as that sunlight comes in, you'll get one side of the mountain will be heated up much more than the other side based on what hemisphere that mountain range is in. You've also got the oceans, which have a lot of breezes which are coming in off of the ocean. And they're also drawing on a lot of clouds. The mountain ranges are drawing in the clouds off of the ocean, producing that rainfall, and then sending those clouds away. So there's a lot of different environments essentially within those smaller regions in Panama, and that produces very different tasting coffee in different areas. So Finca Hartmann is in the Boquete range. Boquete is known for having 13 different microclimates, so that's a certain area in Panama. And so obviously with each of those microclimates you can get completely different tasting coffee. So with this particular one here, they've got quite a range of altitude, so they've got some nice mountain ranges there, and they've also got a lovely thick canopy of forest as well on the farm. So it protects as the coffee trees are growing and as the fruits are drying, it protects them from a lot of that direct sunlight and UV rays, which can be harmful when they're direct onto the coffee plant. But Yeah, I mean, essentially we'll get through, I'll start grinding these ones up. But yeah, I hear a lot about microclimates all the time and people talking about them and why it affects the coffee, but there's not really a lot explaining like why you're getting all of those flavors. So yeah, microclimates, when you think about that, it's a certain area, and that's why certain farms in certain countries can become very renowned, like Finca Hartmann here. Because essentially they can produce coffee that's so much better than somewhere, say, 2 kilometers down the road or something, because of that microclimate. Just a little fun fact as well, I was looking at some stuff on Finca Hartmann this morning, and the founder of Finca Hartmann, he actually came from Austria back in, I think it was 1912. He traveled to Austria and, well actually no, it might have even been in the 1800s, but his name was Alois Hartmann, and he essentially traveled to Panama in search of adventure. He was an archaeologist, and there's a photo of him online that you can find. You can actually search Finca Hartmann on Google Maps, and they've got a range of photos of the farm there, and there's some little info bits, and there's this photo of him. He looks just like Indiana Jones, and he was an archaeologist. He traveled to Panama, to the main city, to pretty much, in search of adventure, and he followed the railway line all the way up to the top of Panama, and that was where he settled, and he pretty much he bought some farmland off of the Panamanian government at the time, and just started setting up a farm there. So this farm in particular has been in their family for 3 generations. He handed over his farm to Ratibor Hartmann, his son, after him, and then now it's Ratibor's children who look after the farm and who we deal with directly as well at the moment. So there's a lot of history behind this farm, but yeah, it's a really cool. If you guys find the picture online, actually, I've got it on my phone right now, I'm pretty sure, but it's. That was Alois Hartmann back in the day, and literally he looks like Indiana Jones. It's it's pretty cool. But yeah, it's fun getting to see that history. And this farm essentially, they've been growing coffees for this long for over 100 years now, and it's been within that same family as well. So they've been, and obviously they've been doing it for a very long time, so they've produced some incredible coffees. But what I'll do, guys, I'm going to take these ones over and I'm going to grind these up. And then we can get in and start smelling the coffees. And what I've done a bit differently today to some of the other weeks when we've had coffees, I've got little cards which I'll place in front of the coffees. That way when we're tasting the coffee and when we smell the coffee, we know that what the processing method is. We can sort of look for those flavors and those tastes in the cup as well. So I'll just be the Typica varietal, but it's got much larger beans. But when you can smell that coffee, this was actually my favorite when I was cupping them the other week, just because of that real juicy melon acidity that was coming through from it. But they're just, yeah, tasting amazing. But I was just blown away when I saw these coffee beans because they're so big. There you go.
All right.
So more so on this side, you'll be able to smell that difference as well between the different processing methods. So the natural, they always smell much more fragrant. And then yeah, the washed and the glazed, they smell just a bit more like coffee. So glazed is like the honey process, but it's actually sort of different spin, so they keep breaking the coffee beans and moving them instead of just letting them kind of dry and ferment. And so as they keep moving them, they turn glazed essentially. It's like, I was describing before like making honey nuts or something, and how you have to like keep moving around and stuff so that glaze goes even. Hey man, thanks for joining us for cupping this morning. Yeah. Well, come right here, we'll have a go with one. So what we're going to do now, guys, is add in our hot water to the coffee. And what this is just the simplest form of extraction. So we've just got our coffee and our hot water inside there. What you'll find is that the solids will sink to the bottom inside the cup. We'll still have some on top and they'll form a little crust on top of the coffee. So after that coffee is steeped for about 4 minutes, then we'll scrape away that crust and then we will get to go through and we'll taste that coffee. But essentially it's just the water and the coffee interacting inside the cup and extracting that flavor from the coffee. The idea behind this as well is that it's keeping it simple, so it can be easily replicated as long as you're following the same recipe. With these cups here, they are measured to be obviously a consistent volume between these, but also for the amount of coffee that we use, we've got the correct ratio. So we use 11 grams in each of these cups of the coffees, and yeah, that way we can get as even a table as possible for tasting all of the differences between the coffees. But if you like to, we'll just watch out, it is a bit hot to the side. Oh yeah, time. Thank you. Always forget that one. So when you guys are ready, 3, 2, 1. That's all good. Okay. So just keep going, guys. And what we want to do is just aim for one spot here. Just a little bit on the side.
Keep doing that.
That's all good. So if you want to watch, what's your name, sorry? Yo? So watch Yo over here. It's falling in one spot and then it starts to like circle. So that. No, that's all good. You might find as well, because the jug's a bit heavier, even if you have your other hand over the top of it, that it just helps. Yep. So what you guys can see as well, we've got this crust on top and how it's a bit bubbly and it's got that coffee in there. So that's essentially the crema on top of the coffee. So when we roast coffee, we produce a lot of carbon dioxide inside those coffee beans, and that gets released when we add water to the coffee. So in the espresso machine, when we extract our coffee, that carbon dioxide is part of what makes up the crema on top of our espressos. And then this is just a really light crema here. So it's that release of the carbon dioxide from those beans inside there. And yeah. Nice. And just push that coffee aside and smell everything inside the cup. Then clean the spoon afterwards, and yeah, we're good to go. So feel free. Go for it. Yeah, thanks, man. Good to see you guys. Yeah, you too. Coffee cup inside.
Yeah, it's cool. The El Salvador is up after the...
I think so. Yeah. So they're sorry, you guys. Actually, they'll be on Wednesday anyway. So yeah. Alright, thanks, man. No worries. Would anyone else like to get in some crust? Yeah, give it a go. I'll move this another way as well. It's always a bit hard. Otherwise, you'll get a mouthful of coffee grinders.
Very hot.
Yeah.
Do you ever use our Turkish brew method here?
For cupping?
Not for cupping, but just for certain things.
Not really. We mainly stick to the B60s in here, but that's just for sort of a consistency for us, really. What that does is it spreads it around our palate so we can taste it on all different sides of our palate. And then afterwards, cleaning our spoon. So with the spit cups, you can use that just to spit that liquid out if you don't want to drink too much coffee. But yeah. So just to think about as well with these different coffees on the table. So these ones are all the natural processes. But on this side in particular, it's quite fun to really get down and see those differences between the different processing methods. So all of the only variable between these three coffees is how they've been processed. They're all the same varietal, same farm, and same roast profile. We've got a natural, a glazed, and a washed. Otherwise on this side you can really have more fun. So these ones will be available on Wednesday for 2 weeks through the shop here. But yeah, this is a little sneaky showcase beforehand. Just going to check the temperature. Awesome, they're good to go, guys. So yeah.
There's always one half pound bag of us. Every couple of months, the owner will make something, usually Turkish.
Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah, I love it.
Are they?
It's just that. I suppose, I always taste it in, I don't know if it actually is that flavor, but I always taste that in the colors of that kind of, honeydew melon and rock melon. Yeah. That orangey and that sort of green, those real light colors, but yeah, that's the color of that.
Hasil cupping hari ini. Geisha yang saya paling suka kopinya adalah dari Panama, Geisha, Hartmann Geisha, sangat fruity, mengingatkan akan lychee. Ini merupakan kopi yang saya paling senangi. Kedua adalah kopi dari Hartmann Katuai, natural process juga. Dan yang ketiga adalah yang Marago Jipe, Ya, beginilah gambaran suasana di
It's like kind of a secret snack. We do a lot of their catering things. It's the particular type of variety.
It's not producing to season lowest beans. But yeah, it's such a distinct flavor.
Oke kawan-kawan, sampai kita ketemu lagi di lain kesempatan.